Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is pretty straightforward. We're going to try and take the ultimate shortcut into the mind of Benjamin Graham.
Yeah, the man everyone calls the Dean of Wall Street. I mean, he's really the foundational thinker behind, modern security analysis.
He absolutely is. And we're not just going to be, flipping through the pages of security analysis or the intelligent investor.
No, not at all. Because while everyone knows Graham as Warren Buffett's legendary mentor, the sources we have, they reveal this really profound and often contradictory personal story.
And that's what's so interesting. It helps you understand why he developed his methods.
Exactly.
I mean, the hook is so compelling. The sources describe him as having this rare trinity of attributes.
Right, especially in a world like investing, which is just notoriously cutthroat.
Exactly. He was brilliant, he was successful, and he was deeply ethical. But the thing that really sets the stage for me is just how broad his intellect was, outside of finance.
Oh, totally. He was not just a numbers guy. He was this intense reader of the classics of literature, philosophy.
I read that Columbia University, before he even went to Wall Street, offered him teaching positions in 3 separate departments.
3! Can you imagine? Literature, philosophy, and mathematics.
And he turned it all down to jump headfirst into the chaos of early 20th century finance. That's the first contradiction.
And the second one is maybe even more striking. It's this paradox about his memory.
Right. So on one hand, he had this colossal capacity for remembering, everything that mattered in business.
Corporate assets, detailed bond figures, historical prices. I mean, he could recall these complex facts from decades earlier almost.
Instantly.
Instantly, yeah. But then in his daily life.
He was, and this is a quote, legendary for his forgetfulness.
Yeah, he admitted it himself. He said there were 3 things he always forgot. Names, faces, and telephone numbers.
He called them completely useless information, which is just... wow.
It's incredible, isn't it? It shows this extreme form of intellectual focus. He just dedicated his mental hard drive to what he thought was fundamentally important and lasting. Everything else was just noise to be ignored.
So what we have is this genius who basically filtered the world. He ignored social details to focus on these huge intellectual pursuits. And so today, that's what we want to unpack. How did his difficult childhood, his cultural interests, how did all that forge this revolutionary approach to finance?
Well, to really get the method, you first have to understand the man. And that means you have to understand this deep, early scar.
He was born Benjamin Grossbaum in London, and his family moved to New York. They were doing pretty well for a while.
They were. But then disaster struck. His father died, and Benjamin wasn't even 9 years old.
And just like that, the family's financial security, it just vanished.
Almost overnight, they were plunged into real poverty. And the memoirs make it clear this wasn't just about not having money, it was the emotional weight of it all.
His mother became almost obsessed with hiding their struggles.
Desperately. Trying to maintain what the sources call a seedy respectability. She even took their last bit of money and speculated on volatile stocks, which of course just made everything worse.
All to keep up appearances. That experience had to be more than just formative. It sounds traumatic.
It was. He said it left a strong, unwholesome impression on him. It made him, conscious and respectful of money, but also deeply suspicious of surface appearances.
So he learned really early on that speculating, trying to play the market, that was a recipe for ruin.
Exactly. His big takeaway, which came from just pure necessity, was that the most brilliant financial strategy consists of living well within one's means.
And that right there, that's really the spiritual core of value investing, isn't it?
It is. That stability and intrinsic value matter so much more than market hype. And what's amazing is that even after he became this huge theorist of capitalism, that early experience gave him this really profound social conscience.
Right, he never forgot what it was like to be at the bottom.
Not at all. And it led him to propose some pretty radical social ideas later in life.
Like his adequate nourishment principle. He had a great name for it, right?
He did. FFEB, food for everybody.
And tell us a bit about that, because it was really ahead of its time.
It was. He basically proposed national school canteens to provide 2 free meals a day to all students. And the key part was no cost, no questions, and no sermons attached.
He wasn't interested in moral judgment or means testing. He just wanted stabilization.
Precisely. And he had the same idea for employment. He proposed the government should advance personal credit, basically unsecured federal loans, to people who lost their jobs but still had valuable skills.
So for him, financial strategy wasn't just about making rich people richer. It was a tool for stabilizing the whole economy.
Yes, and that brings us right back to his core professional idea, security analysis. He practically invented the field by just demanding that investors focus on the facts, the real figures. What is this company actually worth?
Not what the market feels like it's worth on a Tuesday.
Exactly. Forget the whims of the market. And this is where we circle back to that memory paradox we talked about. His professional method was the intellectual version of his memory.
Focusing only on the fundamentals.
And ignoring all the useless noise, his detachment was just total. He had this amazing metaphor for it.
Oh, the one about the doctor.
Yes. He said the analyst is like a doctor working on a patient who has fallen in a riot. The doctor's job is to focus only on the patient's health, the fundamentals, and completely ignore the madness howling in the background.
And the howling riot. That's the stock market.
That's the stuff.
That kind of rigor, that's not something you just learn in a classroom. I mean, he was an incredible student, right?
Yeah.
Greek, Latin, math.
Oh, he was brilliant. A total standout. And he won one of those really competitive Pulitzer scholarships. That was his ticket. It covered tuition, living expenses, everything.
His path forward. But then you have the infamous scholarship fiasco.
What a story. It was this horrible bureaucratic error that basically cost him a year.
It was a name mix-up, right?
Right. A name mix-up. The registrar's office confused his name, Benjamin Graham, or Grossbaum as he was then, with his cousin Louis Grossbaum. And they just told him, sorry, the scholarship went to the next fellow in line.
Wow. For a kid who had worked that hard to escape poverty purely on merit,
Yeah.
that had to be just crushing.
He admitted it himself. He said he felt this deep humiliation. It was a really early lesson that, hard work and brains could still get derailed by just institutional incompetence.
It must have taught him not to trust the system, but to trust the data you can verify for yourself.
I think so. And that whole mess forced him to find work to earn money. So in the summer of 1910, when he's 16, he takes these really surprising manual labor jobs.
He works as a farmhand and a mechanic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hard to picture the future dean of Wall Street.
Earning $10 a month plus board, shoveling coal ashes, and dealing with a skittish cow named Lucy.
It must have been just incredibly grueling. The total opposite of the intellectual life you wanted.
It was. And then the mechanic job was assembling electric doorbells. Tiny, repetitive stuff. But Graham saw something in it. He said those experiences, as hard as they were, they built his confidence and his character.
So for him, manual labor was another kind of education.
A crucial one. He called it self-education, learning how things are actually built, how to work, how to persevere. He understood that the real value of an asset, whether it's a cow or a part-in doorbell, is what really matters, not the price some distant market slaps on it.
That self-reliance seems to have made him more than just an analyst. He was an inventor, too.
Yeah, he was always trying to improve systems. He came up with a better slide rule, a faster way to learn Morse code. He was an engineer of efficiency.
And that intellectual integrity was so important because, and this is the ironic part, he was a terrible salesman.
Just awful. The sources say he pretty much failed at every sales job he had. Selling ice cream machines, phonograph records, even bonds.
Which is key, right? It means his success couldn't be built on charm. It had to be built purely on the logic and the force of his analysis.
Yes. His independence was almost forced on him. His judgment had to rule because he couldn't sell you on anything else. He couldn't be a conventional market cheerleader, and that's what guaranteed his objectivity.
And that same demand for independence, for objectivity, it opens this really complex window into his personal life. The memoirs are incredibly honest about it.
They really are. Here you have this rational genius who could find the true value of any company, but he really, really struggled in the emotional world.
He was married 3 times.
And he was so candid about his challenges. He confessed to being a susceptible man, to dealing with womanizing, and he linked it all back to this general problem he had with personal intimacy.
A profound admission.
And he says it himself, He admits he failed to apply that same logical, disciplined reasoning to his love life.
The very thing that made him a genius in his profession.
Exactly. He wrote that it took him a very long time to learn how to relate to women emotionally.
What a humanizing dichotomy. The man who invents value investing, this whole process of seeking certainty in the fog of the market, was living with so much personal uncertainty.
It's like his whole professional method, finding order and ignoring chaos, was a reaction against the chaos he saw everywhere, maybe even inside himself.
I think that's the real genius of his story. His life was this quest for wisdom in 2 different realms. He mastered the professional side early on.
But the emotional wisdom, that was a lifelong pursuit. You see that later in his life, he was much more interested in culture and intellect than just making more money.
So his legacy isn't just a formula. It's really a testament to how his struggles, the poverty, the injustice,
Hmm.
gave him the caution and the critical distance he needed to succeed. He learned to ignore the market's clamor because he had to ignore so much else.
Yeah, the necessity of that hardship is what bred the revolutionary thinking.
And that leads us to our final thought for you, the big question here. I mean, think about it. If Benjamin Graham had had an easy life, inherited wealth, perfectly smooth ride.
No poverty, no scholarship fiasco.
Right. Would the father of modern security analysis have ever developed that same detached, critical perspective? Or would he have just gotten sucked into the speculative noise he spent his whole career telling everyone else to disregard?
It makes you wonder. The hardship may have been the entire point.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the complex life of Benjamin Graham.